Another problem, another project, another video. So this time we're going to be working on an old ARIA electric guitar in the 60s and 70s, 60s or 70s. Anyhow, my brother picked it up, got it at a guy was selling a couple instruments, actually a bass in this area, 6-string electric. So it's got a bad switch, 3-way doesn't work. If you look very closely at those pickups, you can see they've come unglued from the bases, and the wires, there's supposed to be 2 wires coming out of those coils to make this circuit work. You can see 1 wire in the center there is coming out, but the second wire is tied up there in the side, right in this area here. You can see a piece of a solder joint came off the plate that was grounded right down to that plate, and that plate was covered in copper, and as you can see that copper is corroded, and the connections came off, the glue came off, that wire is completely broken, and the solder joint's missing. So yeah, that's the challenge. So the challenge is we've got to replace the 3-way switch. That's very straightforward and simple. I've already got a replacement right here. It's a modern switch. It'll do the job. It's basically the same dimensions as what the original switch was. Different colored knob, mind you. We're going to start by removing the wires from those plates. Put this section here aside for now and work at rebuilding and cleaning up those pickups. So that's the objective. So let's get going. Well, both pickups are removed. This one was on this side. This one was over here. And the wire, I took a photograph of the wiring, by the way, before I started, was like this. So I know that this one's going to be the neck position. This one's going to be the neck position, bridge position, and we'll now proceed to actually start clearing up those wires, these plates first, and then we'll rebuild those pickups. So let's get this wire out here. It's not going to be easy because it's got magnets that are sticking to that plate, and I don't want to break this wire at all. So I'm going to heat it from the bottom and just gently pull it from the other side. Hopefully I'll be able to get it out. Whoops! Oh, a big glob of solder came out. The wire's still stuck in. Maybe bent in on itself. There we go. I got that wire out. So now we have a separate plate and a separate bob and a coil, and there's the other wire I told you is going to go to this plate. This stuff is angel hair thin. It's super thin, guys, so it's not for your faint of heart, but it can be done. So now I'm going to proceed at cleaning up the plates. See what we're going to do with those. I don't know yet. Under close examination, the plates are made of steel, but they look like they've been copper plated. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to clean up that copper plating and see if we still have a good enough copper on top of it to be able to solder the wire, the ground wire from the pickup back onto that. And what I'm going to do is, because I have a bit of rust right here, and it's the only place where I see rust, everywhere else it actually just looks like maybe corroded copper a bit, maybe a bit of rust up here. And this appears to be where, I guess that was a metal rivet, went through the steel, got welded to the copper on this side, and to this, looks like an insulator plate. That's where your hot wire came out there. And again, that's just another rivet that goes right into the to the plate. It looks like it's steel. So that might be why we have rust over here. I don't know why we should have rust. You wouldn't think that these things would get wet, but anyway. So first attempt is to try to clean that up a bit. This is a pure vinegar, 5% concentration. It's not your pickling, it's a little bit lighter. I'm just going to put this on the rusted area there, dab that on, let that work a bit. You can already see some of it's coming off. So definitely rusted right through the copper there. That's steel on that side. Appears still to be good copper here where it welded onto the rivet. And there's a lot of glue residue on this too, because originally that ceramic magnet was glued onto this plate, and we will glue that back. But we're going to use the plastic housing in order to do that, so that we have the alignment for the poles coming through the plastic cap. We want to make sure we glue that back at the exact same spot that it's supposed to be, otherwise that cap won't fit back on again. Yeah, cleaned up not so bad. I wanted to give this a rub with vinegar first before I opted to go grab some steel wool, just to see what kind of corrosion we had. I didn't want to start rubbing that copper off. I could replate it with copper. I figured out how to do that. That'll be a different video, because I don't think I'm going to have to do it this one round. I think right now I want to just clean this up, make it functional, and yeah, we'll save the copper coating for another time. That part's not so bad. It's got some sort of residue here. I don't know what that's from. It almost looks like something liquid got into it. Fell to a side, you know. Maybe somebody was playing guitar in the rain. That'll do it. Beach party, that'll do it. It was from that era when people were getting into guitars, were doing a lot of crazy stuff on TV. Yeah, I think what I'll do is I think here, it looks like that's where the copper lifted, where the side of the solder joint would have gone. It looks like a teardrop shape there, and if I line that up, it looks like that might have gone right there. It would make sense, but it can't go there now because I got nothing to weld it to. I can't turn this thing around. So I'm going to have to use some steel wool in this area and see if I can't bridge myself a nice ground somewhere on a good solid piece of copper that's still stuck to the steel. So we'll grab some steel wool, see what happens. Using a very, very, very fine grade of steel wool. This is, in terms of the size, this would be 000. It goes down to 4 zeros. So it gets actually quite a little bit finer than this, but this is already really, really good. If you just buff it lightly, you're not trying to scrape nothing off. I just want to see that little bit of copper that's left under there shine a bit to give me an idea where we could stick a wire. It's looking nice in this area there. If the wire's long enough, I could just tack it up in there. Anyway, there's a plastic cap on this. No one's going to see anything under here at all. It's going to be completely hidden. That's why aesthetically, it's not critical that it's, you know, you see that copper plate completely 100%. It's okay as it is because it's covered. And it'll be practical, it'll be functional. That's what I want it to do. So yeah, in this area here. So we'll have to now draw our attention to the coil itself, measure that with the meter and see if it's still sound. And then we'll rebuild this. We have the power and the technology. We can do it. Alright, so we tried this end of the wire, which was going to the center lug in the pickup base, and this part here that has the solder on it. And there you go. There you go, right there, 9.55 kilo ohm. So this is relatively a decent high output pickup. It's not super high output, but I mean it's a single pickup. There's going to be a lot of sound, a lot of power there. We're going to clean up the bottom, scrape off some of that glue, and take the solder off of that little bit of wire that's there, and try to hook that up there somewhere else on the copper, on the plate. I have some copper, and yeah, we'll weld that down. And there's a little bit of wire we have left over to work with, so that's not so bad. I think we're going to be able to hook onto that plate pretty good. Goes like this, so I'm thinking I got some copper in this area here. It looks pretty solid. I don't know if I could swing it around that far. Maybe I could. I could put it in here, put a better weld, better bead right in there. That's what we're going to do. So now, as I said, we'll take off the glue and want to make sure that you don't cut any wires. So be careful here. Again, that stuff is super, super small. I'm going to use the X-Acto just to scrape that down, scrape off that old stuff. I'm going to be using cyanoacrylate, by the way. Cyanoacrylate, which is crazy glue. Back when I put this back on as an adhesive. I find it does a nice job. That's almost perfect. So a little bit here. Yeah, that's respectable. That's good. Bit of old glue. So now, again, that's glued directly right onto this plate. This plate is steel, copper coated. It will be going in something like this. Again, I'm going to use the cap to center it to make sure. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue it in first, and once I have it glued, then I'm going to wire it. So like that, I'll make sure that the cap fits over top of it perfectly and that there's no obstructions in that regard. So I'll go get the caps. Okay, so I got the cover figured out, the orientation, how it goes on top of the plate. Now I'm ready to fix these wires to their original location, but I had a revelation and I thought to myself, rather than run this little wire here back to this copper coated steel plate, why not run an extension from that post where it's soldered to? This is the inner winding comes to this post there, then it goes to the plate. Why not run an extension from there right up to here on the inside beneath the cover, so like that I don't have to depend on a good electric weld to this base, because I think, in my opinion, the only reason that was copper coated was it was to give them something to solder to. Otherwise it doesn't make any sense, but I should have used brass. That being said, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use a piece of small yellow wire, just a tiny little fella here, to bridge from that post to this post in here, and we'll see how that goes. I'll prepare that off camera. So just prior to wiring that last little bit of wire, which I've just prepared, I'm going to take the opportunity to weld, to glue this down to the base. And by doing so, we'll have a solid, it won't move once we do the wiring. It ain't gonna, there's no chance that I'm gonna rip a wire. That's what I want to prevent right now, is to have an accident. So I'm gonna use crazy glue. I'll put a bead across the back. I'll line it up, put it over. It won't harden right away. I've got a few seconds. I'll put the cover on top of it and we'll let it sit, and yeah, then we're gonna weld it up. The objective is not to get too much glue on right away, just enough to hold it in place when it makes contact, because I could always put more glue in from the side. That's more than enough. That's more than enough. Make sure those wires are not in the way. Gently line that up to where you think it was supposed to be. Get that cover on there, else pronto, and move it. There we go. That's exactly where that goes. Fantastic. So we'll just let that sit up for a bit, and we'll come back to it about 10 minutes, and then we'll solder on the wires. Yahoo! So I just wired the first center wire back to the center lug. Comes out here. I'm going to put another dab of solder on the top part here to make sure that we got a good weld, and then we'll go on and we'll carry on and we'll put on that small yellow wire that I wanted to put in here. So I got my soldering iron ready. Well, that's weird. It's a steel tip, and it sticks to that plate, which is right on top of that ceramic magnet. It's weird. That's good. Cut it to about there. Right there. Got my clippers. Put some solder on the end. Some solder on the lug down here. We're gonna weld it to. Put some fresh solder. That's good. And now position this over. And I'm probably going to end up melting the end of my paintbrush, but that's for the cause. That's a good weld. That's nice. Give that a minute to cool. So now, a little bit of wire here that was originally going to the base. Just going to cut that off now. It's no longer required. Theoretically, we'll clear up that solder joint there with some solder wick. That's good enough. So we should take the meter out now, which we will. Measure across those two posts and see and make sure that we have, I think it was a 9.5 kilo ohm. That's what we got. And we got around 9.8. Check that again. Alright, that's pretty good. So I'm going to rinse, repeat, do the same thing to the other pickup. No need to film it twice, and we'll be back. And like magic, abracadabra, I've done the second one. This one I did the same thing with the wire. Brought it from that edge down to that lug, and this time here, there was enough extra wire left over that I could do that, and I'm starting to suspect that this one here, that might have been someone that did that after the fact, because it made a lot more sense at that one to there. Anyhow, nonetheless, we've got covers for them now that the fit on perfectly, and we have now we have the task of just popping these things into the pickguard. Install them into the pickguard and wire up the rest of the electronics. And we will have ourselves a vintage instrument blast from the past. So there you go, Polly boy. I'm going to clean up my counter, and we're going to put these into the pickguard. Make sense? Yeah, das einen guten sense. Let's do it. So my brother went and copper coated the insides of these covers. Even though they're plastic, they're going to make an excellent Faraday cage to prevent any RF coming inside, but we have to run a little bit of copper from this edge inside here and there over the tabs, over the ears, like I just did to this one there. We'll trim that off so like that. Then when we put this over top the pickups, it is going to make a electrical connection between the plastic and the let's get that in there better, between the actual metal and the plastic cover, the case. So yeah, so we'll this one actually goes on the other one. So we'll actually set that, finish this one up, put some copper on them, install them on top of the pickups, put the pickups inside the pickguard. Yeah, and this is going to be the electronics, your volume, your tone, your guitar output, and this will be your three-way. So these copper covered into here, flip this over, and we'll wire that with that. Let's do this. So now we have conductivity to the ends of the pickguard covers, meaning that when they go on top of the metal plate, the metal base, they will now make electrical contact. So this pickup here now is going to go into this neck position here, or into the bridge position, and it's going to go where the wire is going towards the front, towards pointing towards this one, and all the connections come through here, this channel, and go down through the electronics. I've pre-installed this one just to give you an idea what it looks like when it's installed. As you can see, there's 2 screws with springs on them, 2 screws springs. I just push those through and they just sit there with the tension of the copper sheeting holding them in a little bit. But effectively that's installed. You can see we have connection there, connectivity, and subsequently when we put the wires on it, we'll have no shorting, and we will have the most possible shielding that we could have given to this thing. So let's get this pickup installed now, shall we? Covers on, screws are installed in the pickguard case, or in the pickguard rather. The springs are on it, so you're going to put this through, and you're going to just put 1 screw in at a time, because you can only screw 1 at a time anyway. So twist that in till you get it through the middle. When you just see it coming through the end, then you'll know that you've got where are you? There you are. There, that end's holding. Just came through the tip, the plate. And we'll do the same thing with this one. Very carefully, not to scratch your pickup or pickguard. And there, we got that one through too. So now we'll bring it through a little bit just to give it some height. Clear the electronics off the bottom. And prepare for the next step. That looks good. So there we go. Pickups installed in the pickguard. Got the new switch installed. Pickups are installed. Turn this puppy over, and it looks like it is ready to receive some wires. At least this works now. Didn't do that before. So I'll put the camera up in the tripod and get a good angle on this, and we'll start to wire this back onto there. Okay, so what we're going to do first is we're going to start putting some solder on these lugs and get them, these contacts here, and get them prepared for the onslaught of the wires to come back. That's good. That's good. Alright. Now we're going to put this one over here. This one was wired from the behind like this. And I'm going to do the same thing in my rearrangement. And then this one goes in here. There we go. Yep. Put some solder down in here. Now this one's going to be different in the sense that you got to watch the orientation. The center piece, the center pole, is going to be your signal out hot. So that means that's going to be the center part of the center part of that wire, the black wire. So this one's going to be reversed a little bit backwards like this, because this pickup is installed a little bit backwards. There we go. Good solder there. Swap that one around a little bit. There we go. A little bit too hot to handle by my hand. Let's hold this into place there. Bingo. Alright, so now on the ground, we have 3 wires here on the switch. We have the ground here, we have a ground here. This ground is going to go to there, and then those 3 wires are going to line up exactly as you see them here, 1, 2, and 3. So we'll start by removing the ground. It's going to get hot. Just a tad. That's good. Now, what I'm going to do now, just in case I lose my orientation, I'm going to mark these wires 1, 2, and 3, and that'll prevent us from making any kind of mistakes. So we'll do a 1 dot for line 1, we'll do 2 dots for line 2, we'll do 3 dots for line 3. Let that dry up a bit, and then it's white paint. It's perfect for marking on metal surfaces and black wires like that. You want to see them, otherwise you could tape them up. That should be good enough. Should dry relatively fast. I'll use some solder wick to try to suck up some of the solder before we remove the wires. Make them a little bit cleaner. There's one. That cleans up relatively nice. Just like I said, just to pick up some of that solder off those poles. It's contacts like that when I heat them up. Just pull those wires right out like that, effortlessly. Come on, there you go. And the third one. And oh, there you go. Third one, beautiful. So these wires are out. You know where they go. This is the ground. So we'll have to figure out how to get those wired on and make room for that ground. So something along these lines here. Maybe down like that. I think what I might do is I might install these ones, the pickup lines first. So let's put some solder on those wires, because that's exactly where they are going to go. And again, they're marked up 1, 2, and 3. We did this, made sure that that was good. There's 1. There's 2. Come on, there you go. And there's 3. Wow, did it, folks. Pickups are connected to the switch. Now, as I said, there's this little contention, this little fella here to deal with. I think what I might do is swing him around like this. And or maybe bring him to the bottom. Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll bring him to the outside of the switch, come up to the side of the lug like this. So I have to prevent that wire from being burned. And yeah, that's how that's going to go. So we'll put some solder on this, on the switch, on the ground lug. Prepare this for the ground wire. A good bead on there, get a good bead on there too, make this fresh. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to push it in with these pliers here. Like that. Done deal! Ground switch is on. So, You've got a grounded switch, grounded pickups. We are now at the point of this project where we install electronics. I don't know why they got this tab here turned way down, but if I install that like that, that's going to short right out on the copper shielding. And that is going to be for my switch out, so that's my signal out. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, this lug here does not need to be used. I'll just bend it up and get that out of the way, and I'll be very, very careful not to push down a little bit so that I don't break the rivet off the pot. Capacitor seems to be well installed. It's a 0.047 I guess that'd be ohms or kilo ohms. No, that'd be ohms, I think. I'd have to check. Anyway, wiring here is good, wiring there is good. Yep, this is ready to go back into this. So we'll remove the hardware, the washer, and the nut. There's already a nut on the pot, and that's there to give it some spacing off of the pick guard. So it's going to go in like this, so make sure you orient it like that and put it back as such. There we go. That's how that would go. So that being said, put our hardware back into place. As I said yesterday, these are 500k ohm pots, so they are for the high volume output pickups, which we've ascertained that that's what we've got here based on the readings. Incidentally, I read them. I took a measurement again off camera just to make sure that we're still doing good, and still got no shorts and everything's fine. So wow, there you go. Essentially, switch replaced, new electronics are essentially done. This wire is a ground wire that had to go in through a hole in the body in the cavity of the guitar and get hooked up underneath a bridge. So that means I'm going to have to remove the bridge because my brother brought me up the guitar pretty well ready to go. So we're going to put all this aside. This is done. And we'll clean up the bench and get the guitar out and get ready to install this. So there's the body. There's this glorious guitar that's going to receive that those pickups. So as you can see, my brother, he went near the copper here, and everything's looking really good. But when I went to wire this, I realized something. Normally the ground wire that would be coming out to ground the bridge and tailpiece is not there. And it's because it's still attached to this, to the jack output here, output, right there. So this wire is going to have to go under here, then back out here, then re-welded back to there. So going to have to remove the bridge, the tailpiece, get that wire reinstalled, and batten that down with the, screw that down with the screws, and theoretically it should be playable. Well, electronically anyway. And you still need strings. We got strings. I'm gonna make this work. There we go. So the bridge has now been removed, and you can see the indentation here where a wire came out through that hole, kind of looped up there, just made electrical contact with that tailpiece. We're gonna put that tailpiece back in. But before we do that, we're going to put that wire, fish this wire back through that hole. And what I think I'm going to do is, rather than unwire it from here, I will simply carefully insert it in here, see where it breaks on the other side, and then take it out and put it back through from this side here into there. So that's what we're going to do now. Wow, that's just saw where it came out on that side. You can see that. If you look down in there, you can see that's where my wire came through. So what we'll do now is we'll feed that wire back through here. Remove the sharp metal objects, the screws from the bridge, rather the tailpiece. So, how did I say this was going to go? Like this. Let's see if we can't make this work, shall we? And it's not going to be easy because I don't have a straight line. So, use some pliers here. Help me out. Feeding it through. So once I get it through here, I can just pull it. Just make sure you don't mark up the finish. Again, you don't want no unnecessary work. It's going in. And there we go. There we go. So I will not even bother trying to touch the electronics any more than what I have. I will leave that there, and I will screw this puppy back down. There we go. So theoretically, I should have contact now between here and there, and we're going to test that. We're going to make sure that we have connectivity. Just a meter. And it's not grounded to this shield yet, but you see that everything else in this cavity, I'm touching the electronics cavity right now. The pick guard, I don't think you can see that. I put that over there like this. There you go. You can see it now. Grounding out the bridge. And I can see that I have great ground everywhere. And once this piece comes over here, this part here, which is not grounded now, will effectively become grounded because it's making proxy contact with the rest of the device, pickguard and copper. It's time to put the electronics back inside. Yeah, man. Just take a note of this cavity cutout because this is where your wires have to run. So you can see that in between these two pickups here, there's going to be this space here, and between the volume and the tone going to the switch, the wire is slightly off to the inside and it comes straight up. So we may have a little bit of a difficult getting that on, but we're going to try that out now and see if we can't make that fit without marking up the face of this guitar in any way, shape, or form. That's kind of where that goes. Like I said, now I got the wiggle room with the, oh, perfect, look at that, the wire snapped right into place, everything went right where it's supposed to be. Ladies and gentlemen, we're done. That looks like that's okay. So before I put the screws on it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook it up to the amp, make sure that we have functionality. So we have a live amp. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Should be able to hear that. So we're going to plug this into the guitar. Nothing's screwed down. Alright, so first off, in the center position, both of these pickups right now, with this switch in the center position, if I put up the volume all the way and the tone all the way, I should have a sound, which is beautiful. If I turn down the volume, I should have nothing, which is great. Turn that volume back up, turn down the tone. You can hear the tones doing its job. And I'm holding this in because that plate, I don't want that to come out. So volume all the way up, tone all the way up. Both pickups in the center position. It's working in the neck position only. This is only this neck pickup here. That's the only one that's working, which is good. And if I go to the bridge position, we only have bridge, which is fandabulous. So, ladies and gentlemen, this guitar has been wired. I'll put the screws on it, put some strings, and make this play. Well, here we are. Got it all tuned up. New strings. It's got It's got a decent sound, guys. This is the neck pickup. This is the position for the neck. The bridge. So, Paul, you got a new guitar, bro. It's looking good. Sounds nice. Plays nice. We'll do the final intonation after you finally do your adjustment for the height that you like. I got it super, super low. That's how I like it. But, yeah, we'll do that back when you're ready to set it up for yourself. In a nutshell, this was guitar pickup rebuild / wiring. Fun little job. Please, if you like it, hit the like button and subscribe, please, to the subscribe button below. We will be doing some more videos. I got another one on the way that is pure pleasure, nothing but fun. Nothing practical at all. Sometimes in life you just have a little bit of fun, right? So that's what this is all about. Until then, stay cool, guys.